and Mai and Catherine, and we're here to talk about kind of bringing your ideas and your projects to life in different ways. Lisa has loads of tools, and we just thought we'd talk a little bit about that. And it's something that I'm really into. I've done courses with Lisa, and I've just found the support that you get and the different little tools that Lisa uses has really supported me in bringing my ideas to life. So you might just tell us a little bit about those tools that you use, Lisa.
Yeah, sure, Geraldine. So, one of the things that a lot of people say to me is, well, I've got ideas, but I don't know which one to choose. And what I say to them is, well, what if you didn't have to choose one of them? What if you could choose a whole lot of them? What if you could put them together in different ways and actually create something that's even greater than what you started with? And, it's really interesting because people have a lot of, I guess, conclusions about how they create and what they're creating and how it should be. And I look at it as an adventure. Like, for me, it's this thing of just being able to explore. And, a lot of people, when they first starting out with, like, trying to bring their ideas into reality and actually have them be something, they're trying so hard to get it right. And if you will just actually look at that and go, okay, well, if I didn't have to get it right, how much fun could I have with it? And that actually allows for this space where you can actually experiment, really, and do different things that maybe aren't going to work how you expect, but could actually create something that's more than what you expected. So that maybe is a starting point for people. And what questions have you guys got? Because all of you have worked with me in different ways, and I'd love to talk a bit more about that process of creation and how ideas can be brought into life without having to go through all the procrastination and all the doubt and all those other things that tend to show up.
Well, I know when I've worked with you, I found that very refreshing that you actually were saying to me that, not to just focus in on the fact that you're procrastinating and making yourself wrong about it, but to actually sort of, give yourself a break on that front and sort of nurture yourself and your projects and, that essence of nurturing things into life. I found that very helpful.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a moment, because I know that a lot of people don't even know what nurturing your projects into life really means, because for most people, you set a target or a goal, and then you kill yourself trying to create it, and it's all about the deadlines, and it's all about what you should be doing, and there's no joy in it. And one of the things that I've done with Creativity Lab, which is my business, and particularly the 3-day events, which are called Creativity Lab Thrive, is I actually have this very playful, joyful process with people where we actually allow things to come into being rather than trying to force them. Because have you ever noticed that when you force something, it doesn't always work out quite how you thought it might? Yeah. So that's one of the things, is actually taking away all that sort of force and control and actually allowing the project or the idea to show you what it can be.
Yeah, so I want to add something for that one, because Lisa, what you're doing is actually, we hear a lot about focus on your goal but enjoy the ride, and this is actually the tools to really enjoy the ride. I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yes, and this is the thing, is like, if you're not enjoying the ride, then what are you doing? You might as well, I'm not going to say you might as well be dead, but enjoying the ride's a big part of it, because otherwise you get there, and what have you got? You're there, and then what's next? Another whole lifetime of working really hard, when actually, what if every moment of it is really joyful and creative and playful?
Yeah, and also not being attached to that end goal. Be open to different possibilities.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about that? Because you've been with me on a 3-day event.
Yeah.
And how different it can be. So maybe will you tell us about your experience of that?
Yeah. When I came to your Creativity Lab live in Copenhagen, I was actually at the point where I had skipped my whole project for 5 months, because I'd been creating for 3 years on a big project, and I was very excited, but I was so tired and confused and couldn't execute, so I dropped it for 5 months, and then Creativity Lab came to Copenhagen, and this was bring all your ideas and frustrations, and we'll look at it. And I literally packed 3 boxes of all my stuff, and I went to this 3-day, and that was amazing because I really got clear on what I was actually capable of, and how to navigate in that, and what to keep and what to actually throw out. So yeah, I'm so grateful for that event. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So what else would Katrin? Yeah.
Just adding on to that, when you came for 3 days in Oslo last year as well, I was one of these people that, you know, always needed to do everything right and didn't really start because everything was, I just didn't know where to start with everything that I had. And then in those 3 days that we had together, the group kind of went into different areas, and then I started getting inspired by the group as well, and which is a really cool dynamic. And then I started thinking, well, what do I know, and what are my gifts that I can utilize? And I'll just tell you right now that one of those businesses that I started up, more or less, when we were together, last 3 weeks, earned me $1,000. So what can we say? How does it get better?
Cool. And like that's why you have a day job, right?
Exactly.
It's like extra fun money to play with. Yeah. And you know, this is the thing, because people come and, you know, a lot of people come and they don't know what they want to create, but they know there's got to be something more than what they've got going on now. You know, sometimes people come because they're bored and they actually are like, well, what can I create? And so I have a whole lot of tools that we play with that, so that you can actually have the adventure of discovering it, because it's a lot more fun to actually work it out for yourself than to just have someone give you an idea that doesn't quite sit right for you, you know. And one of the things I encourage people to do is really to do experiments, to try things out and just see where they lead without them having to be anything. Because when you have no expectations and you're just creating for the joy of it, it's a whole different thing, and so much more actually tends to show up because you're not actually limiting what can show up by the points of view you've got about what it should be like. So that's one thing that, yeah, I would definitely recommend if you're not sure what you want to create. It's this thing of like exploring, well, let's just see how many different ideas I can come up with that would make a possibility for something different. So thanks, Katrin. That's really cool. So I wonder what other questions people would have about this whole thing of creating and, you know, getting past their procrastination and all kinds of things like that. Has anyone got anything you would like to ask?
So I'll just ask, so I've had some questions where people ask me, okay, so this is 3 days of my life, so what happens after that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you just told people you can make money.
I do.
But like, you know, really, what happens after that is truly up to you, because when we run through the 3 days, it is not a set structure. It is a very personalized process that depends on what projects you'd like to play with, where you'd like to go, what you'd like to change. And so a lot of the 3 days, as well as actually creating things and getting hands-on and actually getting them done, the other part of it is that a lot of people go away with a much greater sense of their own creative process. And so what that means is that the next time you go to start procrastinating, you're not likely to do it because you actually realize that you know how to get past that. And this is the joy actually of, you know, exploring ideas in a group as well. You start to see all the different ways that are possible for creating your ideas. And if you had more than one way, maybe you'd create a lot more. So that's one of the things. And like, you know, really, it is so different for everyone. Like, I've had people come who wanted to create relationships. I've had people come who wanted to create businesses. I've had lots of artists and people what I would call from the creative industries come because they want to have a different perspective on what they're creating. And, you know, I have lots of really good questions that take people into very different spaces so that they can start to discover, well, what is it they know that no one else knows, and what is it they can bring to the world that can be totally different maybe to what exists now.
Yeah, I would like to say something also. You kind of getting into more trust about your creations and your that you're able to create and keep on creating. And what came for me was I quit my job a year later. So that was one of my goals, to really get full time with my own stuff. So that has helped me a lot with all the tools from Lisa.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. Yeah, so really, what happens after is up to you. And you can ask pretty much any question you'd like during those 3 days to help you be able to keep going afterwards. Often we will do, in the last afternoon, we'll do a bit of an action plan so that you've got a sense of where you're going to go next and what you're going to continue on with. And that I've found is really helpful for people. I've had just so many different types of people come. And often for people who are coaches or consultants or, in those sort of helping industries, to have a different sense of how they can go forward with their business that's quite different to how a lot of other people do those businesses is a really useful thing. So it really is what would you like? And it's like a kid in a candy shop for me. It's like, what would you like to ask me that would actually create something different for you? And I have a really extensive business background as well as loving lots of other creative things too. So you don't have to be creative to come. It's more about a willingness to actually change how you're doing some things and look at different ways so that you actually never get stuck again. Because the idea is that you can always just keep creating.
Yeah.
So I've had quite a lot of people, Lisa, asking, what's the modality or what's different about this event to other kind of creativity events? I don't know if you'd like to say a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, Geraldine, I will. So, it is not one modality. I use a lot of different things. I've worked in a lot of different creative fields over the years, and probably above all, I use my awareness. I am so willing to ask a question and see what the energy is. I could have 5 people come to me with writer's block, and each of them actually would be something different that we would need to change. So it's kind of like this thing of being willing to use the information and the awareness from everywhere. And I do use some access consciousness tools, and I use stuff that I learned in my MBA, I use stuff that I learned in a whole heap of different things over the years. And a lot of it is from personal experience as well, because I realized quite a while ago that I create different to most people. And in that difference has come a lot of information about what actually works. And so a lot of it I just simply draw on, well, what is it that's going to work for this person in front of me? And within a few questions, we can usually work that out with a lot of ease. So then it allows the person to actually start creating until they come up to the next part of, what they're not sure about, and then we can go from there. So there's also a lot of very pragmatic business-related stuff. And I would say that actually I do business in a really different way to most people. I've always been sort of a bit of a rebel in some ways, you might say. I always had to do it my way when I had jobs, which worked for some people and it didn't work for others. So that was always interesting. And yet, when you start to work in the ways that work for you, you can create a lot more in a lot less time. And that's probably one of the joys of what we're actually doing here. So there is no one answer to what you're asking, Geraldine. It's a whole range of different things, and it really so much depends on the questions that people ask and the things that they would like to create as to what I bring out of the toolbox.
Cool. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'll just mention that there's actually a 3-day Thrive event that's happening in Killarney in Ireland, and it's from the 26th to 28th of June. And yeah, we're going to be playing with all these different questions and tools, and Lisa's going to be there to inspire us and support us and facilitate us in bringing our projects and our creativity to life. Yeah, so if you need any more information on that, you can contact myself, Mai, or Catherine, and you can. Do you want to give the information actually, Lisa, for the
website?
The website, yeah.
Yeah, it's www.creativitylab.tv/Europe. And basically all of the classes that we're having in Denmark, in Norway, and in Ireland are all listed on there. And yeah, so the 3-day one is the extravaganza, you might say, in that it's 3 days where you just get to actually be really present with you and your ideas and what you would like your life and your business and your world to be like. And we are very practical in the ways we move that forward. So thank you, everyone, for coming on and talking about Creativity Lab Thrive today. And yeah, if you'd like to join us, I'm coming to Europe really soon, which I'm very excited about.
Great.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Hey.
That's fine. Bye.